Fight fans, this is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and this is Wednesday, so normally I try to do like a fantasy matchup or whatever, but how about a throwback Wednesday? Let's revisit Ricky Hatton. Ricky Hatton, he fought some of the best fighters in the world. He fought Floyd Mayweather Jr. He fought Manny Pacquiao. He had fights with Costa Zoo, et cetera, et cetera. So the question would be, which fight do you feel devastated Hatton's career mostly? What was his downfall? Was it Floyd Mayweather Jr., the loss he had with him in the 10th round, or was it Manny Pacquiao in the second round knockout? So let's look at both of those fights and let's break them both down. First of all, you had the title of the fight with him and Floyd Mayweather Jr., which was called Undefeated. Undefeated was the title of that fight. It made sense because Ricky Hatton was 33-0. Floyd Mayweather was 30-0. They were both undefeated fighters. And the fight, it was a hype job, Floyd was being Floyd. At the time, Floyd was real obnoxious, He was real adamant on selling a fight to be the villain. So that caused a lot of uproar and, but though, that type of attitude sold fights, and it sold $1.4 million million pay-per-view buys for that fight, which made about $73 million. So they had a great fight. Ricky Hatton at the beginning of that fight started off with a pot-shotting jab, and he was a crowding fighter. He believed in cutting off the ring, and he knocked Floyd off balance, and that made the fans a lot crunker, a lot excited when they seen that, because first of all, Ricky Hatton is from the UK. The UK fans are like the UFC fans over here. I've said it before, I'll say it again. You had 25,000 fans, or 25,000 plus fans that came to that particular fight. On an arena of amped up British fans. So he had the support. So anything that Ricky Hatton did, of course, they went hysterical, and it was crazy. Floyd, used the ring because Floyd needed to create distance, which Ricky Hatton at the beginning of the fight wouldn't let him. Ricky Hatton was doing a pretty good job in how he fought Floyd. He didn't let Floyd get off early. He crowded him. He rough-housed him. He stuck the jab in his face. Floyd had to really use his legs to create distance to throw the right hand. Everything changed in the 6th round when the referee, Joe Cortez, took a point away from Ricky Hatton for hitting behind the head, which, understandably. And I think from that time, the point, kind of threw Ricky off a little bit, but that's when Floyd really started to create that distance and land those right hands. The 10th round was probably one of the most profound rounds, but Floyd was breaking him down round by round, with the feints, with the counter rights. And it was a beautiful thing to see. Ricky, was really losing his composure in there after that when when Floyd started running, like landing those right hands. And in the 10th round showed it all when he lured Ricky Hatton in with a left hook. It was a check left hook and caught him, caught him coming in, trying to close that gap, And by that time, that created enough space for Floyd to deliver that left hand. And he ran right into it. He couldn't miss it. His head hit the center, the corner pad. He went down. So, then pretty much, that fight was over. I mean, it was over in the 10th round, or a minute and 35 seconds into the 10th round, it was over. After that, Ricky, this was his first loss. So, he became 33-1. After that, of course, Floyd, he retires again. So for the second time. Ricky goes on to fight Juan Lazcano, the Hispanic Panic, right? He was a good ESPN2 fighter. You know what I mean? He was a very vocal guy. I liked him as a fighter. He was a decent fighter. I would have gave him a C+ or a B-, on his, best day, a B-. Ricky Hatton stormed in on him, as, his comeback to the ring. And he pretty much beat Juan Lazcano from start to finish. I think in the 8th, 9th round, Lazcano did hurt Ricky Hatton, and I think that might have been some of the damage that reflected from the Floyd Mayweather fight, but he was hurt by Juan Lazcano. But he did win that fight. It was a unanimous decision for Ricky Hatton. The next fight he fought Paulie Malignaggi, and stopped. Well, they threw in the towel in the 11th round, but Paulie, I think, was a better pick'em fight because Paulie wasn't a puncher. A lot of people call him a pillow puncher because he does not. Guys like him and Timothy Bradley are not hard punchers. They're tough as hell. They're skilled. They're volume punchers. Like Paulie is. Paulie's a volume puncher, but he's not a power puncher. So that wasn't too big of a threat for Ricky Hatton. You know what I mean? So, he goes into that fight. He stops Paulie Malignaggi, which Paulie Malignaggi is a tough guy. He might not can punch really well or have a hard punch or whatever, or a puncher, but he is a tough guy. He's a really tough competitor. So then he signs up to fight Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao was just coming off a dynamic win against Oscar De La Hoya. The fight was first agreed on a 50-50 split, so it was a little dilemma, but then Pacquiao reneged, wanted more money. He wanted a 60-40. Bob Arum negotiated with giving Manny Pacquiao $12 million as opposed to the $11 million to begin with, and settled with a 52-48 split in favor of Pacquiao. So the fight was made. It was off for a while, then it was made, and Ricky Hatton then decided to go with Floyd Mayweather Sr., and he dropped his trainer, is it Kelly Burns, I believe it is, and he departed with his trainer. And I know that when any fighter leaves a trainer that he's been with for the longest, it shows a lot of things, man. It shows that, for one, it shows where your loyalty's at. You know what I mean? I know you need to make changes to benefit or, to give you advantage, for yourself. But I don't know if that was the right thing, because it was real heartbreaking. You start off with a guy, and then, you suffer a loss, and then you decide to, hey, let me switch trainers. It just, I don't know. I think that's a loyalty thing. But, a lot of people do train to give them that extra confidence, right? So he did that. So Kelly Burns was out. Floyd Mayweather Sr. was in, and when he was training for Manny Pacquiao, you had Pacquiao, Roach, then you had Hatton, Mayweather Sr., Both trainers are very world renowned. Ricky Supposedly Ricky had some problems with Mayweather Senior. Supposedly Mayweather Senior was showing up late to the to the sparring sessions and stuff. So they had some problems. But other issues that were spoke of that they didn't really go into detail. But that fight was titled Battle of East and West for the undisputed pound for pound. Because remember, Floyd Mayweather Jr. he retired shortly after he beat Hatton. But right before they fought, he made his grand opening, and he's coming back to the boxing, and he's pound for pound the best or whatever. So anyhow. The fight wasn't really a lot of trash talk on this fight. Manny Pacquiao's really not that, he's not that type of dude. He's not about that. He lets his fists do the talking, if anything. The only thing Manny Pacquiao's going to talk about is God and Jesus Christ. That's it. He's not going to talk about how he's going to beat someone up and all that. He just doesn't do that, And so it was a pretty, tranquil, press conferences and stuff like that. I mean, they were pretty cool. I mean, they were just chill. The only people that were talking was Mayweather Senior. Mayweather Senior was like, "Hey, Ricky Hatton, the ass-kicking Pac-Man ass-kicking machine," and so it was it was some smack coming from the coaches. Roach too, so you can't, forget about Freddie Roach, but the fight began, and I noticed that Ricky Hatton, him and Mayweather Senior were talking about the redundant things that Manny Pacquiao did. Like he would throw a combination and end with a right hook, then dips to the right. And then it was like, okay, he does the same thing. I'll give him something that he can run into. And the ironic thing was, Ricky Hatton in that fight, he was hit 3 solid right hooks. And he got hit the same way that he saw that Manny Pacquiao continuously did. Almost like spammed, right? So he did the same thing. And the difference is, it's one thing seeing what a fighter can do versus dealing with the speed that a fighter has. Because that was the whole problem. Ricky Hatton couldn't deal with Manny Pacquiao's speed. Manny Pacquiao, he's a very, he has very good, he's very good at distance and, and spacing his punches out. Ricky Hatton's a crowding fighter like he did with Floyd. But what Manny Pacquiao did was he threw a looping right hook. And Ricky Hatton was so busy trying to cut the ring off with a southpaw that when he would come in, he would run right into the hook because he's too busy. He was too occupied with trying to come forward and smother the punches of Manny Pacquiao to the point where when he did step in, he got whacked with a right. And then he would try to, counter with his left, and he couldn't because Pacquiao was right under that hook each time. And, that was first round. He gets caught with a right hook, several times. He eventually gets dropped with one of those right hooks. And he finally realized that, okay, this guy's fast and I can't deal with the power. Second round, it was the destruction. Everyone talks about the left that crashed into Hatton's jaw, which was dynamic. It was just destructive, okay? Devastating. But what people don't understand is it wasn't really the left that did it. It was the right. Ricky Hatton then started looking for the right hook. So he tried to, feint and dip to the right to avoid that right hook. But the problem was, or should I say dip to the left, but the problem was now Manny Pacquiao went back to boxing. He he set that left up. Ricky was looking for the right, which hurt him in the first. He gets knocked out with the left. Done. Okay. So you have 2 fights with Ricky Hatton. After that, he gets beat by another fighter, and then he retires. So coming from a guy that had an unblemished record all the way up damn near to his end of his career, you got to ask yourself, the argument is, Floyd knocked him out in the 10th round, broke him down round by round, systematically. Manny Pacquiao destroys him in 2 rounds. Who do you feel that did the most damage? You know what I mean? Who do you feel that really stopped his career? That's the question you have asked for Ricky Hatton, because Ricky was obviously not the same after those 2 fights. The question is, which fighters did the most damage to his career? So I know this was a little lengthy, but really to break down those 2 fights in its entirety, hope you guys enjoyed it. You guys tell me what you think about Ricky Hatton, his rise and his fall. Who did the most? Who did what? Was it Pacquiao? Was it Mayweather? Was it himself? You guys tell me. Of course, please subscribe and leave your comments below. And you guys been counterpunched. Peace.